Welcome back, y'all. A couple weeks ago, and I meant to do a piece on it. Then I said, nah, I ain't gonna do a piece on it. But I got into it a back and forth with a gentleman on Twitter. I guess a gentleman on Twitter. I saw where Pro Football Weekly. This is about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Had and I guess everybody has their preseason predictions, obviously, and then they have their predictions for also for superlatives and for superlatives and whatnot. So they had already said that, yeah, J.J. Watt, they was already predicting him to be that of the defensive player of the year. I was like, wait a minute, man. This guy ain't played. This guy has played 8 games in the last 2 years. That's 4 games a year in the last 2 years. Now, and I'm like, so I expressed myself. I basically said, I'm like, I'm not taking anything from J.J. Watt at all. Guy's a great player, freakish athlete, and everything. Of course, you guys already know that because I've got a pulse on these types of things. 40 some odd years of sitting up there dissecting football, even as a 9, 10-year-old. I've already said that his career is mirroring that of Mark Gastineau. Go check out the archives there on YouTube, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about and whatnot. And for those people that really know football, they know exactly what I'm talking about. For the ones that don't, who's stuck in this era, who's just a fan for their team, and that's great. And you might not want to care about ancient history. That's fine. But when you come talking to me about stuff like that, come talk to me about that stuff. And this guy goes into a bunch of rhetoric about, I said, well, I'm like, well, he's already going to the Hall of Fame. I say, plus with all the stuff that he did in Houston, which is a great thing, great gesture that he's done, and all this kind of stuff like that. And I got how I said it. He said it in a way that we had back and forth words about certain things, and he went on to say he's the greatest guy that ever. He's literally saying that this dude's the greatest defensive player ever, and whatnot, or defensive end ever. I'm just like, you need to back up on that, Chief. I say not even close, not right now. I didn't know. I ended up going to Bruce Smith, Reggie White, who I still say were better. And they had longer careers. This man just a couple of years ago was talking about retiring. Hell, he ain't even 30 years old yet. These guys played 13, 14, 15 years. Up to like 16 years. It might be like 32 years worth of football between Reggie White and that of Bruce Smith. And Bruce Smith over 200 sacks. Bruce Smith, defensive player. I mean, all of that. I'm like, all them guys that name. He even tried to throw Lawrence Taylor. I said, dude, he hasn't changed the game. He hasn't done the only. I'm gonna tell you, and I'm just saying this. I'm just put it out there like that. The only reason why a lot of stuff goes on with J.J. Watt, aside from the guy's a great player, I'm not taking that from him. Name the last dominant white defensive lineman. I already basically gave you the answer to name the last dominant one. I'll sit up there and wait. And you can put it down in the comments for those that say they know. And then when you name it, then you're going to have to realize how many years. Has it been some good ones? Oh, of course there's been some good ones. I'm talking about dominating, changing the game. Like basically what he's doing, but how long you do at the end of the day, who you going to try to call? Keith Millard? Right? I would say Bryce Popper. Bryce Popper's an outside linebacker. You can't say him. It's my man that you say, can't think of it. He was a defensive lineman, played for the 49ers in their heyday just a few years ago, but he ended up retiring. His name will come to me later on. But that's what I'm talking about. When we start talking about things, when we start thinking about, start talking about stuff like that, when we start talking about those particular types of players, right? When we start talking about those particular type of players, we're talking about game changers. That's what we're talking about. We're talking straight up game changers, and that's who I'm more or less talking about when we start talking about that. And the guy talking about play for the 49ers that was really good. That was Big Joe Staley. He was nice. He was real good, but he was not what you say what J.J. Watt is. The last dominant lineman that you had of a freakish nature, like I said, was Mark Gastineau, right? All your outstanding, great, dominant white defensive linemen was in the 70s and in the 60s. In the 70s and in the 60s and in the 70s. And you go back to some of the 50s. But your dominant defensive linemen have all been African-American, Nubians, whatever name you want to call them. And I'm not trying to make it a race thing, but I'm like, it's like they got to give that. I'm like in the last one, but like I said, Gastineau don't get the love because Gastineau was in the lack of a better word, he was a dick. But look at what he did. 6'5", 6'6", 270 pounds back during that time. That would be what Watt is now in this day and time. The guy didn't have an ounce of fat on him. The guy was, he did everything. He was running 4.5, 4.4, 4.5 40s at 270 pounds on a 6'5 frame. Go look the stuff up. And of course, in all the great things that he does as a humanitarian, I'm not never taking that away from him. I'm gonna say, but he's gonna go in the Hall of Fame. I already know that. But the last 2 years, J.J. Watt hasn't done anything. And to sit up there and say he'll be a defensive player of the year, and I'm like, how you gonna say that? I said, then I just say, let me just do this for giggles. So I go back to the defensive player of the year of 2016. Who was that? It was Khalil Mack. In the last 2 years, Khalil Mack has 21.5 sacks. In the last 2 years. I'm doing the last 2 years because J.J. Watt really has only played 8 games. He's been out for basically 2 years. He only played 8 games in 2 years. Okay? 21.5 sacks. Now I'm glad he went to Chicago because I don't know what the Raiders call themselves doing. I had no idea what this was all about. I have no clue. But you'll see what happens now. Now he goes over there to Chicago. He gives Chicago a boost. Where they at over there, so that's going to be used for them on the defensive side of the ball. That's going to be real big for them. Plus, teaching that young guy coming from out of Georgia, playing that inside linebacker. I mean, that might be something to see for the next few years there, and whatnot. Then I went and said, well, who won the defense? So and Khalil Mack, outside linebacker / defensive end, edge rusher, whatever names they want to call him now. Then to Aaron Donald, who just got his money, ironically. So, ironic, the last 2 Defensive Player of the Year award winners have to sit back and wait and play the holdout game to get their money. I know each franchise is different, but come on, dude. When you got prized possessions like that, who's making a dent in the game, who look like they're going to be future Hall of Famers, well, what do you do? I know Watt got paid. We all know that. And here we go with Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is a down lineman, 3 technique, right? He's an interior lineman. This guy has, looks like 19 sacks in the last 2 years. J.J. Watt in the last 2 years has 1.5 sacks in the last 2 years. But you're going to tell me he is going to be the defensive player of the year? How does that even work? Why would you pick him to be as a way? He's going to come back, this, that, and the other. Okay, I mean, he may. It ain't no sweat off my back. This is just me commenting on this type of stuff. But I see these little things like this. It happens, and I just want to speak about it because I'm like, how you going to sit up there and figure he's going to do that? Based on what? What is it that you saw? I mean, because I know he ain't playing the preseason. I just read an article where Belichick said he's looking to see the J.J. Watt of old. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. I mean, it's whatever. We'll see what ends up happening. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, come on, look. I mean, it's like, I'm like, he hasn't done anything for 2 years. He's played in 8 games. So you mean to tell me if Khalil Mack was out for 2 years? So y'all already literally, because these guys was under contract, but these guys was holding out. They was going to get signed one way or another. So you mean to tell me Khalil Mack or Aaron Donald ain't coming back for that title, or anybody else for that matter? Fletcher Cox, any of them, like a lot of them other guys, coming. It's gonna be coming. I mean, come on, the guys that have been actually been playing. You know what I'm saying? That has been playing football for the last 2 years. I really don't get that, and that's what aggravates me a lot of times and whatnot. So like I said, I was just being real with the whole situation. When you get right down to it about who's what and who's this, I mean, you got all these guys interior between. You got Cam Hayward, Fletcher Cox, you got Calais Campbell. Why isn't he? I mean, that defense to me was the best defense it was the best defense in the league. That was my opinion. Now Minnesota, I'm gonna end up doing things once I finally do the North, NFC North. Once I do a thing on them, I talk about them. I talk about them because the way their defense started skidding from the second half of against New Orleans, going into Philly, and how they just disintegrated. We'll see what happens. That might have just been they would roll it out tired or whatever. But that was something they just started getting exploited. And it was something that came up that all of a sudden they just started getting exploited. And Philly just ran. I mean, Breeze killed them in the second half, and then that whole game against Philly, they just got ran out the building. So we'll see what ends up happening in that particular situation. But you got your Chandler Jones, you got your Luke Kuechly, you got Von Miller. Guy one, I think it's, I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? You mean to tell me none of these guys you're gonna pick? I mean, these guys have been playing for giggles. I'm gonna do Von Miller just for the hell of the last 2 years. What Von Miller did in 16 and 17. 23.5 sacks in 16 and 17. But you're going to tell me a guy that had 1.5 sacks in the last 2 years, he's supposed to be getting, he's your preseason pick. He's your preseason pick for Defensive Player of the Year award based upon what he did in the past. It doesn't mean it's going to happen again. Now, I hope the kid does what he does and stuff like that because he's great for the game and all that stuff like that. But let's cut out the great white hope stuff, man. Just cut all that stuff out. You turned him into Paul Bunyan and putting him up in Canton before he's size and all that kind of stuff. He's going to Canton no matter what. My thing is if he goes into Canton and he say he does nothing else, again, he's going into Canton. Then my question is going to be, then I know it ain't no race thing because I used to love Mark Gastineau just how he played. It wasn't no team of mine because Jets wasn't shit. But at the same time, though, Jets had a couple good teams here and there, with that New York Sack Exchange and all them guys there. Then that means he has to go. 5 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pros, led the league twice, had the sack record. What else you want him to do? He's put the same amount of numbers and stuff. That thing is identical. Matter of fact, Gastineau's might be a little better. In fact, it is. So, but we'll see what happens. But I just threw that out there for you guys to check that out and look at this stuff. I'm like, hey man, I'm like, enough of that already, man. I'm like, I mean, it's just a preseason pick and I get it. But I'm like, and then when the guy's talking the mess that he was talking, I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm like, oh, he's a 3-time NFL MVP. I said, but what the hell has Houston won? I'm like, they've won playoff games without him. So what few playoff games they won the playoff games without him. And in that weak conference, of course, they've won a couple of their divisions here and there, but they have not been to a divisional game. I think they might have got to a divisional game and whatnot and got spanked. They haven't got to an AFC championship. When he starts getting that, he hasn't ushered his team and brought his team on his back like the great ones do. He hasn't done that yet. And until he does that and whatnot, he'll still be great, but he'll still be a great, one of the greats or whatever, but one of the greatest? No, not yet. Not yet until they do something. And that's going to be based upon what they do on offense as well. But we'll see what happens on the defense. But like I said, hey, man, enough of that already. I'm tired of hearing that kind of stuff like that all of a sudden. Here it is, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, so based upon something this guy did for the last over 2 years, I say this again, 1.5 sacks in the last 2 years, 8 games. So in 8 games, he only got one. He got 1.5 sacks in 8 games. If it would have been 20, or if it would have been 11, I was like, okay, yeah, all right. He was good. He was doing his thing before he got hurt. 1.5 sacks. That ain't getting it done in 8 games. So we'll see what happens though, man. But that's just my little take on that little vent right there. But I'm just saying, man. Like, enough of that already. I'm like, he's one of the best. Okay, fine. He's one of the best. He might be one. But he's one of the greats. Not one of the greatest. Not yet. Until he get a ring on his finger and he actually made a serious contribution to it, he ain't gonna go down. He ain't gonna go down that mob. He's not gonna go down. He's not gonna be looked upon like Bruce Smith, Reggie White, Deacon Jones, slew of other guys and stuff like that to play the position. I'm like, he not that. Charles Haley, no. I'm not giving him that right now. He ain't getting that. All right, man. Thank y'all for checking me out. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Like I said, I might do it, I think, probably NFC South tomorrow, I believe. And like I said, I'm going to get them all done before the season starts up and everything. Throw my little predictions and stuff like that out there. And check me out, subscribe to the page. I'm getting ready to be a lot more active on here because the season started. It's new, it's worthy news. I don't give a shit about these guys and what they do on there. I'm strictly about, like I say, everything football. I could care less about any of the rest of that mess. All right. Check me out on Twitter. Everything Football 62 on Twitter, man. 62. You check me out on Twitter. Subscribe there as well. You guys have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow.